in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, before I get to the plane crash, this is something. The OnlyFans owner, the guy who started OnlyFans, is dead at the age of 43. Huh. Now, OnlyFans is a horrible, horrible menace to women, girls, young men, old men, everybody. I hate that OnlyFans. I'm not saying that I don't like to look at interesting content from time to time on the internet, but that's my business. I'm just saying this OnlyFans thing, it was like pornography in a box for girls and women, and you too can be a porn star. And you didn't have to get on a plane and go to Florida, Miami, or Los Angeles or anything like that. You could do it from, home. And, that's so nice, isn't it? Yeah, you don't have to mess with the skeevy guys and the cameras and, you're in charge of your own destiny and you can make billions of dollars. Well, 2 or 3 people have made billions of dollars. One of them might have been this guy. And it's almost too easy to become a porn star. Like, even if it was easy to be a porn star, doesn't mean you should become a porn star. Even if it was safe to become a porn star, doesn't mean you should be a porn star. And a lot of things are lost when you become a porn star in your 20s, right? A lot of things. And we don't know the half of it. And when you're using the porn and all of it, it's bad news. It's bad news. And look, I'm no prude, all right? I'm not saying that. But I am saying I don't want a 20-year-old girl to just decide one day that, I'll make some more money. I'll make extra money. I don't have to apply myself at my real job. I don't have to apply myself at school because I'll make billions of dollars doing this. And I can just do it in my room and everything's going to be fine. No, not everything's going to be fine. Leonid Radvinsky is dead at the age of 43. He has been battling cancer. I did not know. We are deeply saddened to announce the death of Leo Radvinsky. Leo passed away peacefully after a long battle with cancer. His family have requested privacy at this time. Why do they always say that? Is anybody going to be falling over trying to bother the family at this time? I don't think so. The Ukrainian-American entrepreneur acquired Phoenix International, the company that owns and operates OnlyFans, in 2018, and remained a director and majority shareholder at the company. You know what I would have done if I owned that company? I would have dumped it. I would have closed it down. I would have shut that bad boy down. Prominent donor to medical causes. Now, look, maybe he's multifaceted. He's got other things going on. In my experience, not everybody, very, very rarely is somebody purely good and somebody purely bad. But I don't like that. I don't like that thing. And I don't know. Phoenix International was in talks last year over a potential acquisition led by a group, Forest Road and look, it makes money and therefore people buy. Let's talk about they buy it to make money off of it, right? Invest in banks and all these things. I want to talk about the crash. Terrible. We hardly ever have these crashes anymore, right? Do we? It's plane crashes. When I was growing up, you had a couple of years sometimes, or at least every 2 years, you had a major mishap, and it was to the point that getting on a plane, they even had insurance kiosks. There's something I want to point out here that everybody else has missed, okay? And let's see. I want to go to the air traffic control discussion with the planes, including the fire truck. Okay, let's go to cut 16, please. Cut 16. I may jump in from time to time. Cut 16. This is about 45. This is about a minute and a half before the crash. All right, stop right there. So he's been given permission, the truck that is about to be hit by the plane. Now, a couple of little things. I don't know if you noticed it, but he keyed the microphone for about 3 seconds before he started speaking. And he couldn't really figure out where he was. The controller had to ask him first, hey, what are you doing? Who are you? Where are you? What do you want? So the first transmission, he did not have that information. And that just shows me that the guy who was driving that fire truck or just operating the radio in the fire truck was not accustomed to dealing with the man in the tower. All right, when you're flying and operating vehicles at a big airport like LaGuardia, you got the professionals, right? You got people who are seasoned. Maybe this was his first time. Maybe he's a rookie. Who the hell knows what? but I noticed the hesitation suggests that he was a beginner, maybe undergoing training. You you key the microphone, you better have something to say. You don't take 3 seconds, and 3 seconds is a long time. Imagine if you're watching the evening news. Imagine if the camera opens up and there's Brett Baer sitting there and he doesn't say anything for 3 seconds. There is an emergency, and not every emergency at an airport, when they say it's an emergency, is like, oh my gosh, a plane just crashed. They actually have an emergency underway in that a United Airlines, has a suspicious odor in the back of the plane, and the flight attendants say they're being sickened by it. So they got to park right away. They want to park. Hey, let us go to a gate right away. Otherwise, we're going to start evacuating the plane where we are. We got to get these people off the plane. That's actually a pretty significant thing. So that's a priority. And understandably, that's where the fire truck, we believe, was going. Static, right? That's how long he presses the microphone button to talk, but he doesn't talk, which is basically a form of stage fright. And then he seems to be reading from a script. He's very, very specific, which is fine. It's all professional, but it suggests to me a lack of experience. You'll hear some static, extra static before his voice. It's going to start right about, and when he said, Truck One and Company, cross Fort Delta, he was thinking about it, right? I think he was evaluating where that inbound Air Canada jet was. And is he far enough out to make give permission to a vehicle in emergency situation to cross the runway? You got an emergency going on and you're crossing the runway. You got to hit the gas and get across that runway. Did he not proceed fast enough? That is that's a real possibility that he just putt. And there's also quite frankly, a tendency to putt around an airport at night when you're driving. That would be a lack of experience as well. Stop. Truck One, stop. Now, Truck One never acknowledges that. The other thing, I could see a guy who's not, he may be thinking, the truck, if he's even listening, that this was directed at the Frontier Airlines jet, which is also on the runway hanging around. It's a lot of different things, a lot of different moving parts, right? Literally. Stop. The crash has happened. You heard him say again, stop Truck One, stop. It's kind of the thing you do. That's all fine. That's what was he listening? Why didn't he stop? And I'm looking at this. So a plane is landing on a runway and a fire truck is on the way to the emergency at the same airport. He needs to cross the runway that plane is about to land. Now the plane, I'm estimating when he first got that permission, is about less than a mile out, maybe a half mile. I can't tell exactly. I see it as a little blip on the radar screen. That's what happened. He said, you have permission to cross the runway as an airplane was landing on that very runway, but not landing at that exact moment, set up to land, right? On final. And he gave permission to land. Now, is that within the rules? I don't know. I have to tell you, I used to land on aircraft carriers, right? We did not screw around. You did not wave off from the boat unless you were about to land and crash right into something. There's all kinds of, we called it a foul deck, wave off foul deck, meaning there's something on the runway. It's just not clear to me that this was a mistake by the controller. Now, I know the controller has apologized, but he didn't apologize formally. Here's that next transmission. Are you ready? Okay, cut 17, please. Cut 17.
Frontier 4195, I got the word that we're going to be closed for a little while. If you want to prepare to return to the ramp, let me know.
Yeah, we got stuff in progress for that, man. That wasn't good to watch.
Yeah, I know I was here. I tried to reach out to my stuff, and we were dealing with an emergency earlier, and I messed up.
No, man, you did the best you could.
Truck One and Company.
So, a lot of people saying, well, that's it. No, he messed up. Did he mess up? Possibly. Possibly not. When he said stop, about 20 seconds earlier, he said stop. Truck One, stop. Not the stop. 20 seconds earlier, he asked Truck One to stop. There was no acknowledgement that I heard from that individual. Now, he could have acknowledged it on another frequency, or maybe he didn't acknowledge it at all. And was it the controller's obligation to stay with that truck and find out, hey, did you hear what I just said? You got to stop. Now, he's got a lot of different things going on. It's just possible. It is possible that everybody was following the rules and this happened. Sometimes you find out, you look at the rules. Hey, All this time, we had a gaping hole in our rules that something like this could happen, and everybody is following the rules. Now, somebody probably is at fault, having said all that. But I think we have to wait. All right? 2 pilots are dead. I love Canada, by the way. I know we get more friction. Montreal, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I've spent a lot of time there. Great people up there. I just love it. I am curious if the Air Canada pilots are they probably are all from Canada, but not always. A lot of times it's American pilots. You'll find American pilots all over the world. What else can we say about this? Oh, that woman was ejected. I'm looking at the mishap right now. The fire truck seems to be out of there. They got the fire truck out of there. And also the way the Air Canada plane is positioned, was he just landing, or did he try to take off when he saw it? Why is it pivoted like that? That's interesting. Why is it like that? Why is it in that position? Now, I know this. It wasn't just landing. It may have tried to take off, or maybe while they were fighting the fire, or maybe it rode up on the fire truck, so they can't read too much into that. Hey, do me a favor. Stop telling me that Secretary Sean Duffy is on the way to LaGuardia. What the hell's he going to do? He's going to say next to nothing, and not that he should say anything. The National Transportation Safety Board, they'll be here. It takes a year. Now, they do release preliminary findings, and there's more pressure than ever before to have preliminary findings right away. Nobody should rush this process. It's like a murder mystery, right? You think you got it. You think you know exactly what happened, and then all of a sudden the butler did it. The butler did it when everybody thought the husband did it. It could be the same thing with this. So my heart goes out to everybody involved. Obviously, the pilots, the families, but also the controller and the guy in the fire truck. You know, a death occurred, and it's possibly on them, and that is an enormous burden to carry. And this is a reminder. You know, we think technology is going to take care of everything. We think artificial intelligence is going to take care of everything. I'm not saying that was on this guy's. This is one of the few professions where it's all up to the person. A person looking at runway. Is there a plane there? Okay, good. No? Okay, good. Clear to land. It's you think it might be more scientific than that. And then they have a lot of distances, within this threshold, that threshold. They have all kinds of procedures. Something tells me, though, that it's possible that everybody was following their procedure and this still happened. It's possible. All right. I feel for everybody involved again. You ever been under investigation? We got a bunch of investigations, and the whole system would breathe easier if it's some person's fault, right? Because if it's the regulations, if it's the radio, if it's the mechanics, if it's a million other different things, that means the systems have to be changed. But if it's just some guy's fault, right, the whole system breathes easier. So I wish those guys peace and tranquility. Please. Many thanks, and I'll be right back.
Greg Kelly.
Let's go, Brandon.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, the Iran stuff, it's under control. I'll get to that in a second. Robert Mueller is dead. Robert Mueller is dead. Who's Robert Mueller? Robert Mueller is the ex-FBI director, right? Robert Mueller. And President Trump, how dare he say the truth? Good for President Trump. I love his Truth Social, actually. You know what he said, right? He said, I'm glad he's dead. And you could think, I know a lot of people I know, they think, oh my God, President Trump, he's gone too far this time. How could he say such a thing? How could he say a man is dead and he's glad? Well, a couple of things. You are allowed to be honest in death. You should be honest in death. I heard the old adage. What is the old adage? If you can't say anything nice about somebody, don't say anything at all. Well, that's fine to a point, but that has gone from, somebody dies. If you don't want to say anything nice, don't say anything, to no matter what happens, no matter who it was, say something wildly over the top positive about that individual. Over the top, untrue, doesn't matter. Everybody is noble in death. That's not true. Not everybody is noble in death. Just because you die does not automatically bestow a life of, nobility. Oh yeah, you're the no, especially a guy like Robert Mueller. And everybody's misquoting him, by the way. This is what President Trump said. Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people. President Donald J. Trump. You know what people are not doing? They're not doing the last part. He can no longer hurt innocent people. Robert Mueller, because of the way he managed the investigation into Russia collusion, hurt hundreds of innocent people. Hundreds. He also hurt throughout his career people like, Dr. Hatfield. Anybody remember Dr. Hatfield? Probably not. But it was possibly one of the biggest stories of 2004, 5, right around there. The anthrax guy, the anthrax mailer. Remember anthrax showing up at Tom Brokaw's office, Dan Rather's office, all over the place, New York Post, anthrax. A couple were sent to U.S. senators. Anthrax, a poison was sent to these guys. And the FBI just knew Dr. Hatfield did it. Some guy was a little bit eccentric, whatever. And they had 50 agents following him around 24/7. And what did they do? In good FBI form, right? Always the FBI. They leaked it. They leaked it to the press. So not only was the FBI following this poor guy around, but the media was following the FBI, who was following the poor guy around. So it was just a great big catastrophe. And then they determined, he didn't do it. He didn't do it. He was totally innocent. And they ruined the guy's life. They really did. Mueller. But you could say this is, for some people, this goes too far. How could he say such a thing? How could he say such a thing? I like that he said it, to be honest. I really do. And it turns out that President Trump is in line. This kind of thinking is right up there with some of the greatest Western philosophers ever. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Montaigne. These people explicitly, Plato, or Aristotle, you know what they didn't like? They did not like performative grief. They did not like the idea that just because you die, you are immediately absolved of all of your earthly sins. The things you did on earth to your fellow man, we are allowed to highlight that. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. One of the things that Jesus despises is hypocrisy. Now, I get that. Nothing made him angrier, actually, in the Bible. When he kicked over those tables in the temple, right? It was the hypocrisy that he witnessed. They were gambling right there in the synagogue. How dare you do something like that? He hated hypocrisy. Now, hypocrisy is like a national, right? That's how we do business here, right? Smile for appearances, white lies, all that stuff. And everybody from Zendaya to Barack Obama to George W. Bush to Ben Stiller are putting out statements about what a great guy Robert Mueller was. No, he wasn't. He helped sabotage or try to sabotage President Trump's first term in office. Seems like ancient history now. It wasn't for President Trump. His family had to be subpoenaed. He had to pay millions of dollars. He was trying to manage the country, make America great again, and he had this nasty, fake investigation around his neck. It made a lot of people not willing to work for him. Don't go to the administration. That was the word. He was part of the deep state that tried to destroy President Trump. And I don't care because it's totally irrelevant that he was in the Vietnam War. I mean, when does that mean anything? Since when does that mean, you're in the Vietnam War, you can be corrupt? A lot of human beings think that way. I did a little bit of good here, so I can totally blow up somebody here or there. It doesn't. No. Now I want to play something for you. This is just how fake is the fake news. It's perfect. It's perfect. And I will read explicit quotes from some of these philosophers who, yes, decry performative grief. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of energy, and it's an insult. It's an insult to anybody who hears it. We can be honest and should be honest when somebody dies. Hey, stop for a second. I noticed the fake news. They don't really give a damn about military records unless it's a Democrat or somebody doing the bidding of Democrats. And here's a great big example. John McCain. John McCain. My goodness gracious. You know, that guy got absolutely no credit. No credit. It was never mentioned. And granted, you know, McCain was kind of like in keeping with veterans who don't make a big deal about their military service. I looked it up once. Pete Buttigieg, when he ran for president in 2020, talked about his 5 months on the base in Afghanistan, 50 times more, 50 times, no exaggeration, 50 times more than John McCain did about his 5 years in a prisoner of war camp. It's just incredible. I have my beefs with the late, great John McCain, big time, but he was classy. But sometimes, you know, maybe if you don't tell your own story, no one's going to tell it. It's just incredible to me. There are people who serve our country all the time, yeah, and in death or in life. You know, I am done being overwhelmed with gratitude and, oh my gosh, we have to thank that person for their service before we say anything else. Those days are over. They're over. And you know who killed it? General Milley. General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They took that former adoration that we have for the military and they weaponized it, right? And you know who else I can throw in this club? The fake January 6 cops, Fanone and Dunn, right? We support law enforcement, right? They weaponized that support. They exploited that support and tried to neutralize criticism. They said outrageous things that weren't true about Trump supporters and what really happened on that day. And they assumed that we would just give them a pass because, after all, we support law enforcement, right? Not when they're lying to my face. It's really interesting that they support law enforcement January 6th. They hated law enforcement, Black Lives Matter, right? You see the scam they play? It's interesting that you left off the second half of the statement. He just left off the second half of the statement. The second half of the statement, he can no longer hurt innocent people. They didn't include that part. Hey, do me a favor, if you can, rig it up because President Trump is about to speak at, where is he anyway? Let's listen in. Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis, Tennessee. He's talking about crime. The Stoics, remember this. Don't lie just because someone died. Marcus Aurelius, brief is man's life. Brief, too, is the longest posthumous fame. All right, pump up the volume, please.
Then they met, 88 people met, and it's sad. I mean, it's sad they couldn't have made a deal. We could have made a deal with them a long time ago. Then the second set, 88 people met to pick a new leader, and they're now extinguished. And then they're meeting again, but now nobody wants to be the leader. It's one of the few political jobs that nobody wants anywhere in the world. Nobody wants it. It's a very dangerous job. My job is dangerous, too, but their job is worse. In other words, we're systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America. They're not threatening us anymore. As Commander-in-Chief, it's my sacred responsibility to protect our country from all threats. For decades, Iran refused every opportunity to renounce its nuclear ambitions, and in recent months, its own negotiators bragged to our representatives about having enough material to make nuclear weapons. And that was supposed to deter me, but it didn't deter. It made me more anxious, and it just made it much more important. This mission that we're all on together was much more important, and we did it quicker. Iran's missile capabilities were also growing so fast that it would soon have become virtually impossible to stop them. Once they have a missile, once they have what they were building was incredible. And you got a little glimpse of it by the fact that when they came out, they started shooting all of their neighbors. Their neighbors weren't fighting with them. They were getting along okay with their neighbors. And I was surprised. Everybody was surprised. And it actually worked in reverse because their neighbors then turned against them. Now Iran is one more opportunity to end its threats to America and our allies, and we hope they take it. Either way, America and the entire world will soon be much safer and will be a much more secure planet. In addition to all of this, we're working on so many different things. You know, our economy was fantastic. We had a Dow at 50,000. They say it couldn't happen in 4 years. It wouldn't happen during my term. But if I got anywhere close, it would be a great success. Well, in my first year, we hit 50,000. And with the S&P, they said, even more difficult. They said it would be impossible to hit 7,000 on the S&P. And we hit that in our first term. And then, unfortunately, I called Pete, I called General Kane, I called a lot of our great people. We have great people. And I said, let's talk. We got a problem in the Middle East. We have a country known as Iran that for 47 years has been just a purveyor of terror. And they're very close to having a nuclear weapon. We can keep going and get that 50,000 up to 55 and 60 is no end. Or we can take a stop and make a little journey into the Middle East and eliminate a big problem. And Pete, I think you were the first one to speak up. And you said, let's do it, because you can't let them have a nuclear weapon.
Oh, boy.
So we are now having really good discussions. They started last night, a little bit, the night before that. And I think they're very good. They want peace. They've agreed they will not have a nuclear weapon, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll see. You have to get it done. But I would say there's a very good chance. And it began when I said that we were planning tomorrow on shooting down some of their power plants, and we're going to hold that up. Hopefully we won't have to do it. And hopefully we can make a deal that's good for all of us, including the Middle Eastern allies that have been very good to us, including Israel, that's been a great partner in this fight. They've really been a good partner in the fight. They fought hard. But we'll see what happens. I think there's a very good chance we're going to end up in a deal. And so we're giving it 5 days, and then we're going to see where that takes us. And I would say at the end of this period, I think it could very well end up being a very good deal for everybody, as good as if we went all the way and just literally annihilated the place, which if we don't have to do that, that would be a good thing, not a bad thing. In addition, after the appalling lines and massive disruptions at major airports nationwide last weekend, I am again demanding that Democrats in Congress immediately end their disgraceful shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security and restore the full funding
How about those
for
bastards?
airport security and the TSA.
My
They are
parents
holding
are
it
at the
up
airport. I don't want
because
them
they
waiting
want
on
to
lawn
take care
forever. A lot of
illegal
people
immigrants.
travel. All right, they're on that. Good stuff. Will we have a deal by the end of the week? He sounds confident. All right, I am reassured. We will be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I guess I really am intrigued by this whole idea that you must pound your chest in sorrow when someone dies. I kind of get it, but now I actually I don't think we have to. I don't know if we should. A couple of things here. Marcus Aurelius. I don't know much about Marcus Aurelius. The Lamentations of Marcus Aurelius, the Chronicles, the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. Don't get too worked up about anything. He was one of those Stoic philosophers, but I did a little picking around, and let's see here. Marcus Aurelius, he is brutal about this. Brief is man's life. Brief, too, is the longest posthumous fame. Now, what's the translation for that? Fame after death is temporary and mostly meaningless. People who praise you, they'll be dead soon, too. Don't inflate the dead. It is false and pointless. Now, this is from Seneca. He directly attacks fake grief and performative mourning. It is better to conquer our grief than to deceive it. It is better to conquer our grief than to deceive it. That is so interesting. Now, the word deceive, what's going on here? By that he means pretending, exaggerating, and putting on a show. What he's saying is fake grief is actually worse than real grief. Epictetus, is that his name? Epictetus. This is a philosopher I'm unfamiliar with. Epictetus. But by that name, I'm sensing it might be Greek, and I'm also sensing he might be really super duper smart. And he puts it this way. You are allowed to grieve, but you must stay grounded in reality. It is not events that disturb people, but their judgments about them. That's also interesting. We distort reality, especially around death. We romanticize or we demonize. Now, the Stoics, this is what they said about death. Death is natural. Grief is allowed, but distortion is not. Do not lie about the dead. Do not lie to yourself. Do not perform. And some other Greeks said this, death is nothing to us. What lacks sensation is nothing. The dead feel nothing. So all of this is performative, the praise. It's for the living, and often social pressure, not truth. Grief is real. You lost something. That matters. But exaggeration is corruption. Turning a flawed person into a saint, mandatory praise, social pressure to say nice things. They would call that weakness, dishonesty, or even cowardice. I find that amazing. When someone dies, you must glorify them? No. The philosophers would say, no, that is vanity and fear. Because people are afraid to speak truth, afraid of social backlash, afraid of appearing harsh. The Stoic ideal response, what is it? To acknowledge the death, to recognize mortality, and then to speak truthfully. You can also say nothing, but you don't say he was amazing, he was a great man, he was a legend, when he wasn't any of those things. And it's really interesting to hear the outrage about it all. And also the mandatory thing, like, why again? What was so special about this? He fought in Vietnam. The most, I just know people who die with records in Vietnam, and nobody cares unless they can use it for their own political means and ends. Let me just hear the abbreviated cut. Don't you think that would be a good point to point out that there was no Russian interference in the 2016 election, no collusion with Trump? I think that would be a good point. No, you don't. You don't make it there. You don't even, just the Russia collusion. Yet that hangs heavy. President Trump didn't collude with anybody. And Russia spent how much? How much did they spend? Like they spend in every election? $100,000 to buy Facebook ads. Yeah, that really turned the election, huh? Well, what about the next part? So he can't hurt innocent people anymore. You know, the Bronze Star and all this nonsense. Don't be fooled. All right, just don't be fooled. There are people who went to Vietnam and got a Bronze Star just for showing up. All right, it was a bad war. Okay. North Vietnam is totally communist. All right. Vietnam is communist. Vietnam is a communist country. Does it bother you today that it's a communist country? Really? Does it? I mean, we have gone over the top. Nobody ever wants to be seen as not supporting the troops, but they have weaponized that and they use it time and again. If you don't support the war in Iraq, you're undermining the troops. If you don't support this, you're undermining the troops. If you don't support that, you're undermining the cops. It's a game, and liberals play it, and everybody falls for it. Not me, baby, not me. I'm also looking at a video. I have video of the crash last night at LaGuardia, and a couple of things that I noticed here. That plane is going awfully fast, so it's not like it hadn't finished its taxi roll or anything like that. It was barreling down the runway fast. And the fire truck that I thought might have been not moving fast was also moving at a pretty good clip. It was also kind of, and it was actually leaving the emergency area. So there was a United plane. Yikes. That really got dragged down the runway. Let me see here. What else? So the plane wasn't taking off, wasn't trying to. Let me just actually one more time. Yeah, it wasn't. It didn't yank its nose up or anything like that. We're lucky. We're lucky more people weren't killed. A plane hits a car on the runway. You know, it reminds me of my own runway incursions. I've hit stuff on the runway before. I have. Deer. At least two that I can recall right now. I think it's more, but I can recall two. Once at East Hampton Airport, and I'm taking off at night and going down the runway, and then all of a sudden I see multiple deer. And for a split second, I thought I was dreaming because I had never seen a deer in the street, let alone on a runway. It just looked so bizarre. Anyway, I lived, but the deer didn't. We'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?